So I've been telling myself this 6-word daily mantra for about a little bit over a month now, and it's actually drastically improving my ability to deal with life's daily crap. This mantra is get back to neutral. So many of you fall into this self-improvement trap where you are so excited to improve your life, but you need it now. So you go down the positive thinking and self-help rabbit hole doing affirmations, journaling, binaural beats, meditation, looking for that thing that's going to make you successful and wealthy and give you the body that you want. You repeat mantras to yourself every morning, telling yourself who you are, that you're a positive person, that everything in life is going your way. But life has a funny way of smashing you right in the dick. And in those instances, positive thinking does not help you. It only hurts you. I was that guy, and I know how good it feels to give yourself a sense of hope from these positive affirmations and writing things down about the person that you want to be and expecting that that's going to change your life. But all of the law of attraction and positive thinking stuff is only hurting your cause. So I'm not saying positive thinking is useless. It certainly has a time and place, but it's not super useful in the grand scheme of things, in my personal opinion. The problem with positive affirmations and positive thinking is that they operate from the surface level of your thinking. They don't really do anything to reshape your subconscious mind, which is where your limiting beliefs reside. So you can tell yourself, I'm abundant and I attract wealth and I'm super wealthy. Yet your deeply held core belief is that you are unworthy of success because your parents have struggled with money your whole life. So how the hell are you ever going to actually be good with money? They weren't ever taught it. So how are you ever going to learn it? And then what those affirmations are going to do is it's going to cause this inner conflict. That inner conflict is where anxiety comes from because something's not in alignment. What you're saying versus what your mind actually knows to be true are two different things. So now you're going to feel overwhelmed with all of the crap and the distortments that's going to be going on in your mind. And so what happens is you end up binge eating ice cream on the weekends and watching 6 hours of anime without a break in between on a Saturday afternoon when you could be actually doing something to improve your life. Not saying that those things are bad. I certainly do those things from time to time, considering my half of my body is, tatted in it, but those things have a time and a place. So in my early 20s, I decided to focus on personal development, which was a positive thing, I assumed anyway. And I figured that working on myself a little bit every day and also reciting these positive affirmations would ultimately lead to a more improvement in my life and me feeling a lot better about myself whenever I would get down on myself about my flaws and the things that I don't have compared to all these other 18-year-olds that are apparently millionaires on TikTok and Instagram. I did not take into consideration that I would become a perfectionist as a positive thinker. I would start to feel guilty about feeling negative about things or not believing that something would work out because statistically speaking, that thing would not work out at the time. And all of the data pointed that those things wouldn't work out, at least not how I thought they would. And I have a knack for arguing with reality. And I know a lot of you people out there have a knack for arguing with reality. And I blame myself a lot. And it was an overcompensation of what I was previously like, so I would stress about what to be grateful for while I was journaling. So all these things that are supposed to incite positive emotions and good feelings weren't doing the same for me because I felt pressured that I had to have 3 different things every single day that I was grateful for, or else my life I didn't have anything worth being excited or happy about. So you try to shut off these negative feelings and emotions. So you think positively, then you feel bad about thinking negatively, and then you don't allow yourself to process those emotions, which leads to the exact same loop as you would be in if you never started positive thinking in the first place. Unreasonably optimistic thinking can trigger a self-defeating spiral, particularly for those who are prone to anxiety and depression. And research shows that while repeating positive self-statements may benefit people that already have high self-esteem, but it can backfire on those who already have lower senses of self-esteem. So are you just supposed to sit with the shit and be negative all the time? No, absolutely not. This is where that 6-word mantra I was talking about, get back to neutral, comes into play. Neutral thinking is a concept in Trevor Moaw's book, Getting to Neutral. Now, Trevor Moawad is a mindset coach, and he died last year, but he has worked with Russell Wilson. He's worked with Nick Saban ever since Nick Saban got to Alabama, and he's part of what has caused Alabama to have the dynasty they have based on the mindsets that he preached to these people. And Russell Wilson, we know, is an amazing quarterback and probably going to be a Hall of Famer one day, and he lives by this principle of neutral thinking. So what is neutral thinking? It's a method of making decisions that require us to strip away our biases and focus on facts. It allows us to make decisions in a judgment-free manner that accepts what has happened in the past with an understanding that what happened before doesn't guarantee what will happen next. So we accept that the future isn't predetermined by events of the past. We can dig deeper and understand that we can influence what happens next based on our behaviors. We can't change what has happened, but we can change how we react to it. And when we change how we react to it, we can change potential future outcomes based on the quality of the decisions that we make. Now, the goal of the method is to limit emotions during the decision-making process, right? We know we make terrible decisions when emotions are high. That's why they say don't ever make decisions when your emotions are running super high. That's why people will say, like, hey, sleep on it. That's why you want to sleep on things, because it allows you to see things with a clear, more neutral picture. Now, this does not mean you shouldn't live life with emotions. This means that when you're making a decision, don't have emotions involved, but once you make a decision, live passionately behind that decision. Have conviction behind your decision. That's when you can let the emotions, because ultimately, that's what's going to push you forward. Neutral thinking forces our mind to stop focusing on feeling, but what we can actually do. So when I was competing in powerlifting, this meet was about a year ago, and I was having a fantastic meet. In order for me to win, all I had to do was hit my deadlift opener, and I was good. But there's the thing. I was so nervous, thinking about everything that could possibly happen. I failed the first 2 attempts. Now, if you don't know anything about powerlifting, for every lift, you get 3 attempts. Once you register what weight you are going to attempt, you cannot go back down in weight. So I was coming up on my 3rd lift with the same opening weight that I had picked for deadlift that I had hit 1,000,000 times in training, but I could not hit it the first 2 times. And if I would have failed the 3rd time, I would have bombed out, which means disqualified, and I would not have won the meet. Fortunately, I ended up hitting the lift. Now, what was the problem? 1, I was in my own head. Because I was in my own head, I wasn't focusing on my technique, which was my head was down. So based on how my body mechanics work, I wasn't pulling the barbell efficiently. And at the time, this is about 700 pounds. So my coach brings me aside, tells me, hey, chill the fuck out. Keep your head and chin up and do not think about anything else. Once I did that, I hit the lift, won the meet, won my weight class. There we go. We're all golden. And that was the power of neutral thinking that I connected in my life. And I was struggling in the first place because of that overthinking, because of everything that was going on and the fact that I failed 2 times before. I was in my head. But what neutral thinking helped me do was make better choices, such as looking straight up and following the technique that I had followed many times before in the gym. This led me to realize you cannot fake self-esteem. Every cloud does not have a silver lining. Every situation does not have a positive aspect to it. So when people say, oh, just look at the positive, I don't ascribe to that. I don't agree with it. I could have very easily failed every lift. I had to look at reality and see that it was a possibility for me to even step back and be able to come to terms with the fact that this was happening. Understanding that not everything has a silver lining is powerful in itself, because then what we can do is limit the downside. And if you look at the best investors on the planet, you look at all of the best, like basically the best people with money, they don't necessarily go for the highest profit. They try to just cut their losses. And if the firms that cut their losses more than anybody else are normally the ones that come out on top. And trying to maintain a happy face while tragedy and the worst things in our life is engulfing us, that's just unnatural. We shortchange ourselves whenever we fail to deal with negative events and emotions and processing those same emotions. And when it comes to these positive affirmations and all of this stuff that we're trying to add in, most of us need to remove things from our lives rather than add things in. Because it's not the fact that we don't have positive thinking consistent in our life that our life is terrible. It's probably because we're making really bad decisions. And if we just stopped making those bad decisions, our life would get significantly better. You know, it's kind of like you ask an alcoholic if they would just never drink, and I know it's a little bit more complicated than that, but if they would just never drink, their life would get better. If, people that are bad with money would just stop spending their money on dumb stuff, their life would get significantly better. If you took the time to just listen to your partner and talk less, you would probably have a better relationship with them just because you stopped talking as much. This same stuff goes for our thoughts. If your mind is full of negative thoughts or bullshit stories that you tell yourself, you can't expect it to get any better. Not only that, but if your mind is full of negative thoughts, those in themselves are powerful anyway, because our mind focuses more on negative than it does on positive aspects. And that's how we're wired. It wants to prepare for those things. And it's not your fault. We are biased towards this. But by getting to neutral, we can eliminate the charge of that and start to see things with a much clearer picture. So whenever I want to stop thinking negatively and letting myself, ruminate in anger or sadness or whatever that feeling might be, I will ask myself, what happens if this goes wrong? Then, if it does go wrong, will I die? No? Okay, great. So I'm still going to live. And then I'll ask, is this a solvable problem? If it's not, then it's not something I need to worry about. So I will slowly start to get that out of my psyche, focusing on other things. I'd rather focus on things that I can actually directly control. Now, if it is something that I can fix and work on, then I know that there is a direct solution, at least in the short term, to make me feel better until I figure out a longer term, more sustainable solution. But what this does is it gets your brain into a problem-solving mode rather than a mode that's just looking for validation of how it feels. Because that's where we get stuck, is we get stuck with, are these feelings validated or not? Oh crap, they're not. Well, why are they like this? And then we start questioning everything rather than, hey, how can we just take care of this all together? And then focus on the things that actually matter, like the actions that we can take. Because sitting in this negative feeling and trying to force ourselves to be positive is not helping anybody. And it's especially not helping yourself. So it also helps to understand what the things that you have that you value. So if it's a body image problem that you have, which is one that I had for years, so I can directly relate to it, well, I didn't value dieting and eating like clean foods more than not. I didn't value making sure I went to the gym at least 4 times a week and pushing myself to a point where I was, breaking the muscles down. I wasn't drinking enough water every day to feel better. So, if you can start to shift your values, those thoughts are going to go along with it, right? So then there's no longer going to be a need for positive affirmations because you're already going to be that thing. So if you needed those positive if you didn't need those positive affirmations and you already were that person, you wouldn't go trying to do positive affirmations because you are already that person. You're going to get BS advice. There's going to be 8 bajillion different methods of journaling that people are going to tell you to do that is just going to be a waste of time. And all of them are just about lying to yourself and lying about your current situation so that it can keep you on the platform and people can get more views. Most people that tell you all of these journaling techniques that they're doing, I promise you they're not. Most of it's for content. That's the name of the game for YouTube. It's coming up with content, and that's the only content they can come up with. So they give you 25 different journaling techniques per video, and you're just going to continue to do the same thing and not stick to it. All because you think that positive thinking is going to get you somewhere, but that's where the problem is. Positive thinking does not. And the best type of thinking is the type that gets you to a neutral frame to where you can understand the situation at hand and what you can best do about it right now so that in the future you can feel better about yourself. So Get back to neutral.